Running cars on methane or natural gas isn't new and was even used during the Second World War. Now, with gas compression technologies, you can shove a load into a decent-sized tank rather than have a large marquee stuck on your roof. These days, it's called CNG, or compressed natural gas. Environmentalists loved it when the car companies started experimenting with methane. The Honda Civic's GX, for example, was estimated to give out 98% fewer hydrocarbons and 26% less carbon dioxide than a petrol version. You can convert virtually any car to gas, and here's a tank installed in a Vauxhall Astra. Usually you can still keep your normal petrol tank and switch over to gas as and when. BMW did a load of tests in Germany using natural gas or aired gas, and here we see a Beamer being filled up at a Munich aired gas station. Looks clean and high-tech, but unfortunately CNG isn't great on vehicle range, and in the UK it's hard to find places where you can fill up. Unlike LPG, or liquid petroleum gas. With hundreds of LPG refuelling sites around the UK, and with tempting cash savings to be made on running costs thanks to various government initiatives, it seems on the surface a no-brainer to convert your car. But do you really want a huge tank taking up valuable space in your car like this? It's true you can now get tanks that take the place of your spare tyre, but spare tyres are kind of useful as well, aren't they? Plus, many people are wary of safety issues with gas. For example, Eurotunnel tell us that they still won't allow LPG vehicles to go through their Channel Tunnel, so they must be pretty concerned. Plus, you may save cash now, but let's assume most of the UK's motorists go to gas. Do you really think the government will keep the tax low on this fuel then? So, what other forms of energy can we use? Surely electric cars are the way of the future. There have been so many different electric concept cars over the years, and in theory the idea is sound. Or not sound actually, as these creatures are very quiet indeed. Also, electric cars are very clean, so they're good to the environment. Ah, you say, but surely all the nasty, smelly pollution is at the electric power station end, where they make the blessed stuff. Well, that's not quite true. It's actually easier to control those nasty emissions at the power station than on millions of cars running around. And remember that power stations aren't the only way to create electric power. Electricity can be created by wave power, or by using solar cells, using a wind farm, or even hydroelectric power. What a lovely green solution. However, as we've seen in previous shows, electric cars are still in their technological infancy. The General Motors EV1 was a brave foray into a new market, but there wasn't exactly a mad rush to buy electric technology.
But the big problem with all electric cars is still the battery, and that's still today the same. So we have to think how to recharge those batteries to make them smaller.
The problem with these lecky beasts is that even though you can refuel at home or anywhere there's a socket, you can't refuel fast. For long journeys, you'd have to work out if you'd have enough juice to get back. An overnight charge may also leave your car prone to vandalism with all those wires trailing around. So that's why manufacturers like Honda and Toyota have gone the compromise route to get the best from both worlds. The Honda Insight concept was created with advanced lightweight materials, a new powertrain, and 2 engines, one petrol and one electric. The idea is that you don't need a huge petrol engine when an electric one can help out just when it's needed. The Toyota Prius uses a similar system of using 2 engines. On the dashboard you can see if your car is using or storing electricity. So it's not exactly carefree motoring as you continuously eye up the power meter nervously, but you'll be able to sail past more fuel stations than you'd need to stop at. The hybrid cars like the Insight and Prius are doing a great job until the next big breakthrough. But maybe that breakthrough is already here. What if we used hydrogen as fuel and combined it with oxygen from the air? This would produce electrical energy to run a motor, plus the only byproduct would be water. What a great idea! It's called a fuel cell. Plus there'll be no battery to run down, as the fuel cell will keep on pumping out the lecky as long as hydrogen and oxygen are still supplied to it. This was considered such a huge idea that arch rivals Ford and Daimler-Benz actually got together to sign a memorandum of understanding to join forces to develop fuel cell technology. The big cheeses got together to sign the document and invited the press to watch.
We've entered into this agreement with Ballard and Daimler-Benz because the experience and the technology of the three companies in fuel cell development is going to be very complementary. We have believed in Ford for many years that fuel cells is one of the most promising technologies for the 21st century.
But hang on, you're saying, these fuel cells sound great, but where are we going to get all this hydrogen from? And how safe would it be to store the stuff at hydrogen filling stations and in our cars? You know, Hindenburg disaster and all that?
Hydrogen does not only have nice sides like clean use. Its problem is that ambient conditions, it's a very light gas, so storage of hydrogen is one of the problems at the moment.
Well, risk like this is the last thing we need with a future car power system. So if hydrogen-powered fuel cells are such a good idea, how can the hydrogen storage and distribution problem be solved? Well, Daimler Chrysler may have cracked it. In a world first, they've developed a fuel cell vehicle with an on-board facility for actually generating its own hydrogen. This revolutionary new vehicle, which is based on the Mercedes-Benz A-Class, is known as Nicar 3, and unlike its predecessors, fills up with methanol, which is fairly easy to make and safe to store. So, is it curtains for petrol cars? Well, according to people like top British designer Peter Stevens, there's plenty of life in the old dog yet.
Do you know, the simple truth at the moment is that if you've got a gallon can of petrol, the efficiency of storing that much energy in that tiny space is way ahead of any of these other potential things, you know. There are some power sources which people talk of, then you hear they need to run at 700 degrees centigrade, you know. How we could cope with a product liability situation where we've got a kind of furnace in the car that's making the power, you know, is, I think, not solved at all at the moment. You know, that's for sure. Petrol, even though it's controversial and kind of grim and ecologically unsound, is really startlingly efficient. But we will find other things which are good, and we don't know what they are at the moment, I think.